Okay, welcome to 6.5 investing. Yes. Most of us probably have a lot of ideas about investing, and you're young, you're in the prime of your life. You really want to start thinking, this is kind of sad, you want to start thinking about retirement now, because when you invest when you're young, that money can really, really multiply and give you a really nice nest egg when you go to retire. Or am I still on the pen? So today we are going to talk about investment terms. An investment is anywhere that you take your resources. It's usually money uh, from being consumed today and to create benefits in the future. So that's where we set aside money and put it in investment so that later one day it will become income or profit. Financial system, this is the network of structures and mechanisms that allow the transfer of money between savers and borrowers. Financial assets, this is claim on a property or income of a borrower. Like my cars are my assets, my home is my asset, my checking account is an asset. If I have cash, that's an asset. Financial intermediaries, these are like stockbrokers. These are your banker. This is anybody that's a mediator. God, I can't even talk. Between savers and borrowers. So any consultant, again, broker, those type of people. A mutual fund, we talked about this in 6.4. So mutual fund is where you create this fund of mutual stocks, mutual bonds, a mixture of both. It's mutual financial assets. And so you have this variety because it makes it less risky, increases your chance of making a profit. But again, with less risk comes less reward than if you bought a stock and it really took off. Hedge fund. This is where you really employ risky strategies. So when you're risky, you can lose everything. But with risk comes great reward. You also can make a fortune if it happens to pay off. It's kind of scary. It is. Diversification, this is where you spread out your investments to reduce the risk. It's kind of like the term, you put all your eggs in one basket. If you put all your eggs in one basket and it works, then great. But if it goes bad, if you only invested in one stock, if you invested in Apple and then Apple went out of business, you'd lose all your money. But if you put a little in Apple and IBM and Amazon and all the different ones, then if one company went under, you still have investments in others. Reduces your risk. Portfolio, this is simply just a collection of all your financial assets. Prospectus, I needed more sleep last night. Anybody else? Yep. If you have a mutual fund, if you have a stock, if you have any type of investment, they have to provide you with a prospectus of what stocks and bonds are in the mutual fund, how well has it been performing over the past so many years, so that you have ample information to decide whether you want to invest or not. And then a return, this is any money you receive above and beyond the sum of money initially invested. So a return is going to be positive, not negative. That would be a loss. So the return on your investment is going to be, if you invest $1,000, you get $1,500 back. Your return would be $500. Now, investment in free enterprise. Right now, you have invested 12.25 years in your own education. This is a huge, huge investment. Some of you are going to go on and invest time and money into college. And again, that's what an investment is. You're putting something aside now so that you reap the benefits later. So you're putting aside the fact that you could be working a full-time job and getting an education so that later on when you have a full-time job, you're making a lot more money than you could without the education. And, investments have a payoff later. That's the whole point of it. Here you've got this schoolhouse. They've put solar panels on the roof. I've actually thought of this if I ever build a house again. Initially, it's a huge investment. It's expensive. But after a while, especially if the school's not going anywhere, it's going to pay off, because once you pay off the solar panels, then you'd be getting electricity for free. That'd be great. Now, to have an economy, every economy must have a financial system. So you've got to have the banks, you've got to have the network of structures, you've got to have the mechanisms. If banks couldn't transfer money between each other, we'd have a harder time. We've got to have some way that transfers money between those that want to save money and those that want to borrow money, and that's the bank. I mean, you know, imagine if you're just walking around, what do? Walk on the street and go, hey, I got $300,000 I want to invest. Anybody want to borrow $300,000 from me so they can buy a house? Yeah, it's kind of scary. But we can take it to a bank, invest it in something in a bank, and then a bank can turn around and loan it out. Here are our savings rates. Now, again, this is kind of bad right now if you want to invest money in a savings account, because interest rates are low. They're low. People are not saving as much. And so when you look at this, this says percentage of disposable income. How much money are people taking from their paycheck and putting into savings accounts? Around here, this was around the Great Depression. People were starting to worry. People freaked out. They stopped buying less stuff. They started investing it because the economy was down. And when the economy's down, stocks are down, so people invest. The economy's been doing really, really well. People have been holding on to their stuff. They're probably not investing as much new. And so we have less disposable income being invested, and interest rates are low. So you're not going to get much money for it. Here's what we need to do to keep the economy going. If you're saving money, we need you to take that savings and put it in a bank. Doesn't need to be in your sock drawer, doesn't need to be in a hole somewhere. We need people to put it in a financial institution. So to encourage that, we give interest rates. Those financial institutions then turn around and make loans to people that need to borrow it. That could be businesses that want to expand or build. It could be governments to invest in roads. You could be buying a home. There's so many things that people borrow money for. And we need that. That's part of our financial system. These are our intermediaries that connect borrowers and savers. You can link a borrower and a saver directly. If you've ever gone to a friend and said, hey, can I borrow $5? Then you were linked directly. But a lot of times people do financial intermediaries just because, you know, like me, I don't want to run a background check on anybody I sold loaned money to. It's just easier to deposit in the bank, less work on my part, and the bank takes care of all that. Financial intermediaries, they share the risk of someone defaulting on a loan. They provide information and they provide liquidity. We can go and we can get our money. If I have a CD and I have an emergency and I really need money, they'll help me sell that CD to somebody to get at least some money out of it. Here's Edward Johnson. He runs Fidelity Investments. Everybody's probably heard of that. They are intermediaries where people go to them and say, hey, I need to invest money. You know, where do I need to invest my money? And sometimes then they'll turn around and from there they will have people that will borrow money. I actually have some mutual funds in Fidelity Investment. There's some Fidelity Investment mutual funds they've put together, and I have money invested in them through my 401k, my retirement account. Now, here you can see how much money is held by financial intermediaries. Pension funds are one of the biggest things. If you are lucky enough to work a job where you are going to get a pension, the company is putting aside money in your name for when you turn 65. And that money is just growing and growing and growing. Life insurance companies, they do the same thing. They put the money aside, they work off the interest. Commercial banks hold a lot of assets because they are taking in deposits and loaning it out all the time. Most decisions that we talked about, this is what economics is. It's how do we satisfy our unlimited wants with scarce resources by making choices. And that means there's trade-offs. Like right now, the trade-off is I was at school 6:45 yesterday, didn't get home till 10:30. I'm tired. The trade-off for me being at school is I could be at home sleeping. Right? Your guys are at home sleeping. You could be here in school if we didn't have COVID. There's trade-offs. And so when we invest and we trade off, then, that can happen as well. Here's an 18-month CD. You can see it's a 5% interest rate. It yields about 5.13 annually because of compound interest. That's why that's a little different. But you have to at least invest $2,000. Some investments will have a minimum, and this money cannot be taken out until it matures or at the end of 18 months. So this would not be considered very liquid at all. That money's got to stay in there for 18 months. Now, how risky are certain things? Your savings accounts through a bank, they're really low. But if you look at it, how much interest are you making? I think I make a penny a month. But I do have to have some liquid money. I mean, I do have a savings account that's getting low interest. It's liquid because if I have an emergency, we had COVID, people needed money instantly. If there's an accident or a surgery, I have money I can go pull from. So it's worth that lower interest rate to have liquid money. Then I might invest in some CDs, and you can see both of these are FDIC insured. But when we get up here to mutual funds, they are not FDIC insured. If you lose your money in it, you lose your money. And way up here is going to be stocks. Yeah, you're going to have some stocks. You're going to have there's some very, very risky investments. They pay off handsomely, but again, the percentage that do pay off is small. And that is 6-5. Yes. See you shortly for 6-6.